Enough of horses and world travel then. What are you going to do to it?
This is very short notice, isn't it?
Yeah, it only came yesterday. David said he'd go if you were going.
Oh, right, wait a minute. I'm at the dentist on the 20th.
Whilst Gail's doing that, I'll give a personal perspective,
I might
Tony.
be able to make that one.
From the time I was asked to come here, I noticed similarities to where you saw me helping out in the northeast of Sheffield. It was a similar pattern of behaviour as the northeast, except in this case it was much more severe. That's when I came into it to help, and from what I saw, the volunteers had been, euphemistically at least, knocked about a bit to the point where they were almost but not quite dysfunctional, and that's why they'd like me to help. And it was really a question of A, getting them back on the feet, secondly, empowering them to get them from where they were to where they needed to be, and then when they were at that point, then they could deal with whatever it was that put them into that position in the first place. Now, the people around here, they've got their own stories to tell, and no doubt you'll hear them. From my point of view, and I need to make this clear with everyone, and these lot are fed up of hearing it, is I am not a member of this TARA. I'm only contracted in to help on project-specific stuff. A bit like, same as the northeast, once the job was done, there was no further need for me to be there.
The Lone Ranger.
Okay.
Who was that?
Okay. High Plains Drifter, I think I prefer the image.
Go on.
But the same applies here. I'm not on their committee. I'm not part of their decision-making process. And I simply help out as and when they ask for help. Okay, so it's over to you now.
Go on,
Barbara.
Go on then, Barbara.
Where do you want?
Have you got... Martin's given me a good background.
Tell
Any
Tony the
specific
history
example?
of what it was that asked you to bring me here in the first
You mean
place.
when we went up to the...
Yes, because Tony won't know that, and he deserves to know.
Right. We went up to the Jordan Thorpe office.
This is the housing office.
Yes. To talk to Les
I'm sorry.
Ben, who said he wanted to talk to us about reconfiguration, was it?
Reconstituting.
No, it was to put things in process to move the TARA forward. That's what he said, yeah. Or something like that, but it was basically it was to talk about moving the TARA forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we got there, it was just a case of bullying, telling us we weren't doing things right, accusing us of lying, was saying the police were going to get involved because we were, I don't know, we weren't doing things properly and things were, you know,
fraud involved.
yeah, fraud, yeah.
I mean, one of our committee members who has to have a a police check for his job, CRB check for his job. He were absolutely terrified. He thought he was going to lose his job. That's how bad it was.
What were the... Because Martin's sort of given me background, but what were the specific issues that got us to where we are at the moment then?
It was a surprise, wasn't it, when we got
Yeah.
there? Because we thought it was about TARA business, you know, just seeing it.
It was his attitude as though we were doing something wrong, you know, and telling us we were lying about things and the...
He said at finish, he said, I want all this paperwork from years and years, didn't he?
Yeah.
All about money, you know, treasury money, because he was saying we stole some money. And
Yeah, basically,
money.
he was accusing
Yeah.
us that he says, "Yeah, oh yes, you could have done, or you might not have done, or with," and it was like very confusing that he'd actually locked the door so we couldn't get out. He'd actually locked us in.
But
I mean-
it was when he was talking about having the auditing thing from way
It
way
was
back.
just totally intimidating, wasn't he? Well,
Yeah.
It totally intimidated us while we was there.
Yeah.
I mean, he threatened us, obviously with the police and about what could happen. As I said, David was absolutely terrified. We just felt totally bullied into, and we all came out of that meeting totally battered.
How long ago was this?
Not last year, the
Just
year before,
roughly.
wasn't
Year
it?
before.
So it's a
yeah.
couple of years ago.
Yeah.
What's happened since?
Well, we put a cease and desist order on the chair of Sheffield Homes. And what's happened since? Nothing. We did get an apology from Harry Harper, an unreserved apology from Harry Harper. And then he went and lied to Cabinet and says he didn't apologise to us. So, I mean, where do we go from there? I mean, we were all sat round the table. I mean, he didn't want to, Harry Harper, when we went to the meeting, didn't want us to take any minutes of the meeting. And I thought, which was very strange, wasn't it? And then David told him how he felt about the person that thought he actually thought he was going to prison, David, didn't he? He thought he was going to lose his job and go to prison. That's how bad it was. Anne was shaking when she came out.
Well, all I could think about, what if neighbours find out about this, think I'm stealing, what will
Yeah.
happen?
I mean,
Yeah,
You
it was-
weren't stealing,
No.
I know, we weren't stealing, no.
In
But
fact,
he said we were.
what's actually happened is, near mind stealing, most of the stuff that's actually in the Tara office comes from us because we bought it and never claimed for it.
How long ago did you meet Harry Harper? Just roughly.
I haven't got me diary.
That
It was
was-
about
Not
a
like
month.
I would
about
I
a
would
month.
say it was about 4 months. 4 months after the
yeah.
AGM that Lesben sabotaged. That's the first one that he sabotaged.
Yeah.
He attended a meeting, the AGM, and it wasn't going the way he wanted.
Is this about 6 months, 9 months, a year, what? Just
The AGM that
So
took place
this would be
was on
about
it
a
was
year
on-
now.
No,
wouldn't
the AGM that took place on the 5th of May. Not last year, the year before. So was that?
So it would have been
11.
September when we saw Harry. The thing about that was Lesben stopped the AGM because he believed, well, at least he told the other people that he had the authority to do so.
In front of
Yeah,
everybody.
we were
all
under the
people
impression
were
that,
there.
yeah. We didn't know he hadn't.
What happened after then was he claimed that the meeting was void, which it wasn't. They had another public meeting at which they finished the AGM
No, it was
business.
before we had the next AGM. We thought that when we was called up to the office before we had the next AGM, we thought we were being called up to the office to go forward, take the Tara forward to get another AGM sorted out. That's what we thought when we went up there.
Are you still getting the levy money?
Sorry?
It's-
Yes.
Getting the levy money?
Yes.
Except
So-
that
so
he's
you
now
still-
using the same false claims of non-compliance
Because we was
to
at-
put them back in amber.
we was because we
So you're in
was
green at the moment, but you're in danger
no.
of being...
no, we're in
No,
amber.
he's put them in amber.
Oh, you've actually gone into amber.
Yeah,
So we've been told by letter that we don't, that's all. We've never been said.
what he's doing is he's referred straight back to his original lies, which we've disproved, and I think you need to explain the agreement that you had with Janet Parry as well.
Yeah. But can I
but-
just explain
yes.
this first? He's actually put us in amber because he said that we weren't compliant because we had our AGM out of date. Our AGM was out of date for less than a month, and he wants us to do an action plan, and the reason that it was out of date was because the guest speakers that we wanted at that meeting couldn't come before that date.
I need to check this, but
Yeah.
if you're
I think
out
it
of,
was 3 weeks out
if you're out
of
of
date.
date by about a month, I don't think anybody.
It
would
wasn't
be
even
over.
a month.
Well, I don't think
It wasn't
anybody
even a
will
month.
bother about
Yeah,
that.
but
These
they
things-
are. This
Well,
is,
let
it's
me
because of
find.
this,
Let,
yeah.
you know,
Another claim was that you had a meeting last year that was attended by Sheffield Homes. I forget the name of the lady who attended, but because no one from the local area housing office attended, they
Oh, yeah.
claimed that the meeting never took place, and
But
said
she was from Central.
she was from Central,
Yeah.
as per the agreement with
Janet Parry.
Janet Parry,
Yeah.
that they would come and attend. And
and that
then
was a committee meeting, or a general meeting.
No, it was a general
Public
meeting.
meeting.
Public
A
meeting.
public meeting.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And at the last two AGMs, there have not been people from the local area housing office, Sheffield Homes, but we've invited, such as Bev Malooly,
Yeah.
Janet Parry attended one,
Mm.
and the councillor
Clive Skelton.
Clive Skelton attended the last one, and also took over as chair during the official parts of it as well.
So they were saying that a public meeting wasn't valid because he wasn't a Sheffield Homes
Well,
local office member.
no, what his claim was, and this was all recorded at the time, his claim was, I'm the area manager, I decide whether this is a legitimate meeting or not. This meeting is not
I
legitimate.
need to find out
I
what
am
Les says, but it's your constitution and the recognition policy that decides whether it's valid
Right.
or not.
Okay,
You know,
we
quite-
went through
I'm
all
sure
that,
we all
Tony.
agree on
Yeah.
that, yeah.
We all went through all that with Janet Parry,
Mm.
and Janet Parry with Bev Malooly came down here, had a big long meeting.
And it was agreed that all our correspondence would go through Janet Parry. It would all be sent to Janet Parry, and then it was up to Janet Parry to inform who she thought needed to be informed of anything. And that was the consensus that we agreed to. And local contact was supposed to, any local contact we had was to be made through, is it somebody Hall, is it Janice?
Sandra Hall?
Sandra Hall.
Sandra Hall, she's the
Yeah.
assistant manager,
Yeah.
I think, is she?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, it's not my end of town, you see, so I'm not
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the current situation now is that the office over there are still trying to force through meetings. I've witnessed them trying to play divide and conquer game, the divide and conquer game that's going on at the moment. But I also think that you need to learn a little bit about the use of signatures on some of the liaison officers' documents.
Right, Barbara will have got those.
Yeah, I've got them all here, but I'm trying to work out. That's the one. I've got letters were sent to Janet Parry. We've got a reply from Janet Parry. They were going to see Les Ben about these.
Yeah. The bottom line is, we entered into an agreement with Sheffield Homes.
And now, because Janet Parry has left the company, we are being told more or less that that agreement doesn't exist
No
anymore.
agreement in writing.
Yeah.
So it's okay, I'll get copies of all the correspondence, but
Yeah,
Well, we'll go through Sheffield Homes then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but you've got the essence of the agreement
Yeah.
between you. I'll get all the correspondence,
Okay.
Martin.
The BN
And rather than sit and try and
Yeah.
read it,
Yeah.
I'll read it properly when I'm...
The BN Tara has to obviously comply. All correspondence, for example, after the AGM you do a package, don't you? That's got to be sent to head office, except that you then get a notice from the local office accusing you of not having forwarded it. In other words, it's as though, as Gail says, the agreement didn't exist. But it does mean that that cease and desist order, as of April the 1st, will transfer.
And then we had a email from Dean Butterworth actually telling us that the information, because we sent our information to Jonathan Shaw for him to do the same job as Janet Parry, we was told that we
This is
shouldn't.
in the email from Dean Butterworth.
Yeah, that that's not the route to go, that the local area housing manager is responsible for basically what happens in the area. So in other words, you know, we're supposed to send them to him, and it says at times you will have to have correspondence from correspond with Mr. Ben over certain issues. No, we don't.
I think it makes sense if you do. If you're working as a tenants association, you need to try and I accept things have broke down a bit here.
It did
But
break
you
down-
need to be working with
Sorry,
the area.
no, it did break down a bit.
I'm trying to be diplomatic.
Yeah, I know. It didn't break down a bit, and we had an agreement.
Mm.
I mean,
The last AGM you had, I couldn't go, could I?
no.
Clive Skelton was there, wasn't
Yeah.
he? And he said that the meeting was fine.
A
It
really
went
good.
forward.
He enjoyed it. He said it was a really good meeting.
Yeah. Didn't they say after that they put your number?
Yeah. Yeah, it was after that meeting that we put in number.
A lot of it, I believe, is, and this is regretful, you've got personality issues here
Yeah.
within Sheffield Homes. And it's a bit of power play, Tony.
And our face doesn't fit.
Well, it's more than that. It's the issue, I think, here, Gail. There is a power play, just as we've seen in other areas, Tony. Occasionally, please ignore that, I do apologise.
Can you get me
Okay.
a cornet while you're
Occasionally, you do get the odd bad apple. Sometimes you have to deal with
And
that.
people are going to fall out, and
Yeah.
then so the next
Right.
war will start, you know, and
Yes, but
people just go off in different
it happens. But it's how people deal with that situation
It's how we resolve
that's
it.
important. Now, what's happened here is we've got a bad apple. It was resolved, an agreement was made. Bientara went back on its feet and carried on business as usual. And according to Clive Skelton, where you were, in his words, dragging the bottom of the river for a while, you are now thriving. Okay, so he's seen that difference, and to be honest, you've got new members on your committee now. You've got more projects that you're financing outside. You've built up more relationships with outside groups. You've got certainly a dynamic programme for the next 12 months. And I think that your success is part of the reason why you're having these current problems.
I mean, we are aware, very aware, that there is favouritism within the Taras in this area. We're not going to go in why and who, but we do know that there's certain things that other Taras are allowed to do that are not complying, and yet they are still in the green. And we do have the information regarding this.
And we've lost Fraser Estate as well.
Yeah.
Losing Fraser was
Blow.
a blow to the area because volunteers worked hard to
Establish that.
establish it.
Yeah.
And again, what happened there was the same pattern. They started out, they worked hard, they got up and running, they were recognised, a nice public meeting attended by Peter Morton. And then when they started sort of like having a positive effect, they suddenly had another person from somewhere else being imposed on the committee. And within months, there was fraction within the committee. And in that case, the committee broke and said, we're not having this. And so now we don't have a tower on Fraser Estate.
We are lucky that we are really strong, all of us. We're united. been here a long time, we enjoy doing the voluntary work, you know. And if we weren't as strong as what we are after what happened, we'd have just fell apart because it was so horrendous. You know, but I mean, we've actually sent paperwork in via other routes to the local housing office on projects that the people have agreed at meetings, voted for. They've actually put, you know, we've done post-its, what they wanted to see in the area. We've actually done lists, we've sent in the minutes, obviously. We've given them to our liaison officer, and those projects have been ignored even though they've been in writing and they've got the evidence for other projects that are a citywide initiative. But what they've actually said is, no, people want them in the area, but we've got the proof that they didn't.
I can perhaps be a little more specific with that.
Okay.
Yes, it was a citywide idea to revamp communal areas, of which drying areas were one. In Batemore, it's like any area, it's totally unique. Every area is unique. And one of the things that this Tara did was put it out to the people at well-attended public meetings. What do you want for your area? And one of their priorities was parking. It has been for years. When Batemore was built, there was only one car for every 2.5 homes. Nowadays, it's the ratio's reversed.
Probably 2 cars
Yes.
in every house, yeah.
What the tenants wanted, and residents who attended,
It wasn't us, it was the tenants and residents that attended.
what they said was, where appropriate to do so, where we've already done in the past, convert the drying areas into parking spaces, off-road parking spaces. It was a win-win. They were derelict spaces. People weren't going to put their clothes out anymore because they get nicked. The drying spaces,
There's 2 drying spaces anywhere per block of flats.
and the drying spaces at the backs of the flats could stay as drying spaces, so there'd be no loss of amenity. And it's been a proven practice in the past, because on Batemore they've already converted some of these. But instead, they had new fencing up, very expensive, and they're not going to get used. When we started tracking down the evidence from Batemore, where is the evidence to support this? Because at our public meetings, we have gathered and given you the evidence to the contrary. I had to use Freedom of Information Act because it wasn't forthcoming. Eventually I got it, and it turns out that the only evidence that exists for the revamping and replacement of fences of drying areas on Batemore was one comment made by a senior member of Sheffield Homes at a staff meeting to discuss strategy. Now, the importance of that, Tony, is that it was recorded as the meeting as though that's what was discussed and agreed, then taken to the local area housing forum as though it was fait accompli, so it got consent from there, and from there it went to the local area board for endorsement and financing.
But they did say it had come from the community, didn't they?
Throughout, they created and maintained this illusion that the requirement for the revamping of those community areas on Batemore came from the tenants, and that was absolutely not true.
Consultation with the tenants.
And that was absolutely not true. But this is just one example of top-down instead of bottom-up.
The other issue, and I might as well tell you because it should be minuted, I was at an IRPG meeting yesterday with his Investment and Repairs group, which obviously does the full year's future plans of investment. And yesterday, the going local issue came up. And I actually asked Dean Butterworth within that meeting why an area was allowed to put in small bids for the same materials within the same year to the same firm, obviously. And it was a citywide project. Why hadn't it gone out to tender? And I asked Janet Sharp this. Janet was under the impression it was Kia. And I says, no, it's a private company. I says, and is this best value? I says, and should this have actually taken place? 3 low bids to the same company, so it was under the radar, so that we wouldn't actually, it wouldn't have to come out that that we would actually be able to sort out whether this was best practice or not. And obviously we was told at that meeting that they would bring the evidence back to the next ARPG.
Which they haven't done.
Well, we
Oh,
haven't
yeah,
got to
not
the
yet.
end, we haven't,
Yeah.
so we're waiting for that next month. Because also the other people that was at that meeting said that this should not be coming out of going local money, it should be coming out of the HRA because it was repairs.
Yes. Tony, you might remember, going back a few years now, one of the submissions I put in, that's before I was involved with Batemore Tara, with the Lib Dems, Your Community, Your Choice stuff. When basically what the Lib Dems were doing was hijacking the consultation process and using the money from Your Community, Your Choice to pay for things that it had already spent on other items.
It was one of the things that we didn't like about that was it was money from rents basically, and it was being used for the good of the whole community. And we said if it was rent money, it ought to be used for the benefit of tenants. And you know, we weren't above having a bit of match funding, you know, putting some of the your community money in along with other money. But if it was paid for by tenants, then it ought to be tenant stuff and not stuff that should come from general fund.
Yeah, well, the argument I put in there that in effect these meetings were being hijacked because they got their placemen in there and they were just using, as you said, they were using tenants' money to subsidise everybody else.
And then trailing it as the community's choice.
Yes.
Really, yeah.
But that pattern of behaviour has continued into the current round of going local money, whereby perhaps council officers, perhaps Sheffield Homes officers, I don't know, but the pattern is the same in that decisions are made high up and then they've created this structure that filters it down to make it look as though it's what comes out is the result of consultation, when in really what they're doing is managing the process top down instead of it happening bottom up. So that could be part of the problem. Well, I'm sure it's part of the problem here as well.
Cold cause again.
I'm still very worried about the use of those signatures, Gail.
Yeah. So Barbara's got those, copies of those.
What's that then?
Some letters.
Sorry, I
I'll put my pen down. I'm not writing
No,
anything
you can
down.
write
You can write it.
You can write anything you like, Tony.
You know.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Right. You know, we actually got some letters
You can write.
supposedly from Kerry
Yeah.
about, and what it actually said is, they'd arranged a meeting for us to attend up at the area office. We'd actually told them that we couldn't make it because of hospital appointments. We've all been ill. Barbara's been very ill, she's had cancer. I've been ill because of the medication that they've put me on and it didn't suit me and it made me very ill. David's had to go in hospital as well because he's not being well.
You need
Yeah.
knee replacement, didn't
And, you know, it compounds everything, and obviously other members of our committee work. So it's been, you know, coordinating thing for the last, 18 months really. It's been really hard for us. And also within that time my father died, which was absolutely horrendous. because we couldn't bury him for 4 months after he died,
That's it.
due to the nature of the autopsies that had to be carried out, which obviously put a strain on things. And Barbara was also going through chemo at that time. You know, there was lots of things that happened all around that time as well, after the bullying, and then that happened to us. You know, to try and sort things out and try and stay strong, to actually keep this Tara going. And they were aware of it. The housing office were aware at that time what was happening, because we actually told our liaison officer. So it wasn't as if, you know, we were in a position in some ways to keep on going to meetings all the time, because hospital appointments. I mean, I've been to the hospital already twice this week, and it's only Thursday. I went Monday and yesterday, you know, and I've got to go next Monday. So these things are happening all the time. But what they did was, in the letters, when we told them that we were wanting to a meeting, they actually put in the letters, now you have missed 2 meetings. No, we didn't miss them. We cancelled them. We didn't arrange those meetings. We didn't arrange to go.
I think the more important point here, Gail, is that they're calling you to a meeting that they've got no authority to call you to in the first place, because they placed you in amber.
We're still being bullied.
You're still being bullied, yes.
You see,
Still being bullied.
They're trying to call to meeting because they put you in amber. They've lied about having put you in amber because they've never given up that pressure in all that
well,
time.
I need to see what they're saying on that, Martin.
Well, yes.
Well, we've got
Whichever
letters to
way.
show
Yeah.
that anyway.
But the current
I'm not
situation
doubting
is,
what you're saying,
Yeah.
but what,
it's a bit, Tony, it's a bit like you and I would not know each other, or might not even like each other. I write you a letter saying I want to meet with you, and you'll think, well, who's he? He's got nothing to do with me. You'll ignore it. So I'll write you another letter, but copy it to my bosses saying, Dear Tony, following your refusal to attend and your rejection, blah, blah, and you're saying, hang on, who are you to speak to me like that? That's what's happening here now. They've said, first of all, we don't need to attend a meeting to discuss an action plan for getting out of amber, because we're not in amber. In
if he's
truth.
put you in amber, it's in everybody's interest that you meet with him to get out of amber.
But they're not in, right, he's lied to say
Well,
that
I
they're
need
in
to
amber.
check that, because he has the power to put you in amber.
Only if it's truthful.
Only if you fail to comply, which I'm not saying you have done, but if you fail to comply with the recognition policy or your own constitution, and you've not engaged about, you know, a plan to get you out of it. I'm not on his side. I'm just saying that in certain circumstances he has the authority to do that.
But in any case, we deal this Tara.
The ones that's come from Kerry.
I'll get up. What? I don't want to be reading
No,
these.
I
bits.
don't.
want to be listening.
You want the signature.
I'm not going to check it. Yeah, on the signatures, but it wasn't that I was going to say. There is a reason.
The other thing I didn't like was,
It's bullying.
the only thing I didn't like was, before all this started, before we had that meeting with Les Ben, he had everybody separately up there, asking people separately what they thought of the Tara, what they thought of the people, the other people running it, which I didn't think was fair at all. I don't think that should have been done at all.
Well, we're only volunteers after all, we don't get paid.
That's the point.
It's
Yeah,
the same
volunteers
tactic
can
that he
walk out.
used in Low Edges in 2005.
Right,
It's
here we
exactly
go.
the same tactic.
It was because we was as a result of this, your Tara has now been moved from green, fully compliant, to amber, partially compliant. This means that within the next month, an action plan must be drawn up to remedy the issues so you can be in green again, fully compliant. And it was because, one, they didn't come to our annual general meeting, and the other, because we were about 3 weeks out of date.
The 3 weeks I don't understand, because
There was another time, remember the
things happen
January
from time to
meeting?
time, and you can't comply. Sickness, you may have to defer a meeting.
One of the January
Bad
meetings
weather.
they
This is
claim
what
never took
happened.
place.
We had our annual general meeting on the 30th of August 2011,
Yeah.
and we had our next annual general meeting in September, wasn't it?
Yeah.
September.
That's as near as
Yeah.
makes no difference.
Sometime in
clutching at
September,
straws.
it's middle of September or something.
But
Round
he
that.
also claimed that one of the
26th
public
of
meetings you
September.
had,
Sorry?
Oh no.
because
September, yeah.
Central came to attend it, not them, they claiming it never took place.
What, I'm not dashing off yet, but I need to leave about 3. But what I will do is I'll get copies of all the correspondence. I've tried to write everything down. I don't want to read anything today because I can read that, but I can get copies of all this and I'll read it back at the office. I'm quite happy to come back, and then we need to decide how we're going to move forward really on this. We're looking at a new recognition policy about how we do things differently. We'll consult on it. It won't be us imposing it. We'll consult on it. I personally, I have to watch what I say in front of Martin because he remembers things. I personally,
I used to.
on a lot of issues, we need to line up because you are volunteers and it's a voluntary group. And I think we need to look at, you have to have an AGM. That's, everybody agrees with that, I'm sure they do.
Which we've had them. Yeah.
Down shut, get down shut.
Okay.
Well, you have to have an AGM, that's fine. And then there's the question of general meetings. Now, perhaps it's not appropriate to have however many general meetings we say you've got to have. It might be that you have a lot of little meetings, people come in here. Letting people know about meetings, people put leaflets round that nobody reads, and lots of effort and time and resources going into putting leaflets round. I'm not being political, but we've got a saying in the Labour Party that a good leaflet is something you can read between the door and the bin, because that's how long it's in somebody's
17 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it might be that it's more effective to put a sign, a poster up in the library or in the post office or whatever.
We have 7 notice boards on our
But
estate.
no, that's. I think it's only my opinion. This
Yeah.
that's ample. So I think we need to lighten up and have a very light touch. I also think, though, that on finances, we need to have a way of, my terminology, it's all me this, it could be no with it, is that if we think this thing's wrong, because people with accounts, as much for your benefit as anybody else's, we need to be able to deal with it. And it might be that we need to be able to put, I don't know, education would call it, put a tenants association in special measures while we sort it out. And I also think that we need to come up with a way that all the Taras do their accounts in exactly the same way, and then we'll pay for an independent, probably Voluntary Action Sheffield or some such, so that you do your own accounts but you're presented in a certain way. You go to Voluntary Action Sheffield, which isn't you, it isn't us, and they sign it off, they've got the facility, and if there's a cost towards that, we ought to be paying something towards it. So that if anybody like, I don't know, Les, Ben, me, Martin, anybody's saying those accounts aren't right, you've had them independently audited. If they're all done in the same way, we're not talking about ICI here or whoever, BP. Sheffield, Voluntary Action Sheffield can do them fairly quickly and it should be alright, and then that watches everybody's back. And I just think that really we need to let people get on with doing the stuff in the estates and make it as light as possible. But if there are any accusations about, and I get a lot of them, and they're not true, most of them, I mean I can't say they're not, all allegations aren't true, because all allegations aren't made to me, and perhaps some of them are. But you need to be able to say to Les Ben or whoever it happens to be, that's our account signed off, we're dealing with it properly, we should have an AGM every year, we've had one 13 months, that's acceptable. And I just think we need to lighten up a little bit really and let people get on with what they're supposed to be doing really. But we need in our back pocket, for everybody's point of view, to be able to say, well, we've had that tar under a microscope a bit. Needs to be fair. We've had them under a microscope. We're totally happy with it. So shape up or ship out, really.
There are three things here, Tony, that as an outsider, okay, and please forgive me, okay, I have to be blunt because Tony's here.
We wouldn't have it any other way, Martin.
Firm but fair. The first thing is, I think that the relationship with Tony Benn is broken.
Les Benn.
Sorry, with
Tony Benn has been retired years.
sorry, yeah, he retired to take up a career in politics.
If you don't like Les Benn, there might be something I can do. If you don't like Tony Benn, there's nothing.
Right, I think that's irretrievably broken down, and that was recognised by Janet Parry, who then brokered this agreement whereby you do it all through a third party. What I'm seeing now is Les, in trying to impose his authority again, either through those letters which he puts in others' names, but then puts his own name on the bottom, but forgets to change, puts his own signature instead of the name on. And I can see him jeopardising all the good work that's going to be doing over the next 12 months. For example, you're actually now, which you've never done before, I think, you're now having a joint meeting with the Tara across there,
Yeah.
because the issues are too important for one estate. So you've actually gone out to another Tara, instead of competing, you're now cooperating, which hasn't been done for years.
Which is how it should be as well, really. Things cross boundaries.
But, yeah, well, this is what's happening, you see. But this is happening despite Les Benn. Or maybe because of, I don't know. You've got your other projects, you've got your environment project down at
The stream.
the stream, you had your survey, you've now eliminated through your own work with Yorkshire Water, you've now eliminated flooding on Batemore, which used to flood down the bottom corner, and you actually put pressure on them. They came out, they put the television cameras down every drain on the estate and cleared every drain. There hasn't been a flood since.
Do you
So
go to the
you're getting on
Citywide
this.
Forum?
Yes, you go to City
Yeah, because I've seen you there, haven't I?
Yeah.
Because it's going to get increasingly important over the next few months that people go there, because the new recognition policy that we'll discuss. There's also talk about a new tenants federation, which is coming on the 4th of March, I think. It's the March Citywide Forum. I'm getting like Martin, I can't remember. But it's the March Citywide Forum. What we're saying there is that if the Citywide Forum agrees that with what the presentation says, not by us, by tenants, then we'll move it forward. Because I genuinely think that on stuff like this, if we got a proper democratic and accountable tenants federation, then we could have an appeals committee set up there, and if things are going wrong, you've got somewhere that you've got some faith in to take it. So it's important over the next few months that that people get involved, because stuff like this, if we got an appeals process, which we haven't really, you can talk to me and I can try and sort it out, but I think it would be a lot better if we got a proper process, really.
It would be nice, for example, if there was a citywide tenants federation, if they had a subcommittee that looked at this red, green, amber thing.
That's what I'm thinking,
Yeah.
Martin.
Because that would, you see, what I have found, as you know, going around Sheffield, is that the way this recognition policy is applied, it's different in every area, and it's purely arbitrary.
Well, I think we've had this particular one 6 years, it might be 10, I'm not sure, and it needs reviewing. And what I have said this, that when we agree a new recognition policy, which I think will be a bit different, but I don't know because we'll consult on it, that needs to be reviewed every year, so that if we've done something that we thought was a good idea and it's not working properly, we can alter it, rather than it just ploughs on regardless for 10 years, really. And we need some sort of citywide body. I hope we do get a federation, but it needs to be a tenants federation. And don't anybody write this down. I want it to be a proper federation, not like the one they've got in Rotherham and Barnsley, where it's a few people gather. It needs to be accountable to the tenants. And we do you want to wait outside while I say this, Martin? I think if we've got a proper tenants federation, it needs to be a thorn in our side from time to time, because it's not just funding something that's going to come along, have a few cups of tea and sandwiches and not challenge us. So we want something that's going to be challenging, really. because we do get it wrong, and you know we need to have an organisation that can prove that it's democratic and accountable to the tenants. That said, just a minute, and you know we need to have some arguments sometimes, and so long as we realise we're all on the same side and we're still pals at the end of it, we need to be able to have a disagreement in a meeting.
I think
We agree.
for the immediate future, and again this is down to you because now over to a politician's side,
I'm not a
is-
politician.
is that I think Lesben needs to back off, or somebody needs to say to him,
I'll take this stuff
Gently,
away and I
gently.
will come back. I
Yeah.
promise you I will come back.
and
And then we'll decide between us
yeah,
where we think we need to go with it.
and this idea of having a meeting to discuss this so-called action plan, which really is only another document for your annual plan, and I think you've already got it shelled out in front of you, Gail.
What?
Actually,
Like an annual plan for a year.
No, I haven't got that in front of me, but we've done a lot of things for the
Right,
annual
okay.
plan that we're actually doing and working with different agencies, and obviously allowing them to use these facilities rent free, which obviously you know they're very happy with. We've just had communication from today from the what's it called? I've forgotten it again. About
DV?
abuse.
yeah,
Abuse.
team, domestic violence, that's it. Domestic violence team have actually said they would like to use our notice boards to display.
That's what it's for,
And,
isn't it?
yeah, and that they would also like to use our facilities as they do one-to-one within the area. So we've, you know, agreed to that.
Who do I need to contact?
Well, Barbara's the chair.
Have you got contact? Are you on an email or a phone number or whatever?
I've got my phone number, but
Come on then.
I'm not on.
Go on then. What's
Just
your
a
phone
minute, I've
number?
got to look for it.
You never ring yourself, do you?
You don't. You don't.
237
237
48
48
08.
08.
I forgot your number now, we're not ringing.
I'm going to go away. I'm going to get copies of all the stuff that I need, and I'm going to read it quietly. I'm going to talk to Clive Skelton because I like Clive and he's dead straight, and talk to him about the AGM, which I think he's mentioned before because he sits across from me. We share an office and he sits just across. I'll have to talk to Lesben and I'll talk to Harry Harpham, and then I'll get Marilyn, who looks after my diary, to ring you, Barbara, and then I'll come back up, and then perhaps perhaps then we can get together and decide how it's going to progress, because we want.
Clive Skelton will be alright, I don't know about other two.
Well, I have to talk to them. I have to talk to
The
them.
councillors, even if they're in another party,
I have to
they're still being
talk.
elected.
What is the council's policy actually on staff bullying tenants and volunteers?
I can't tell you what the policy
Intimidation?
is, but if we want somewhere that we don't like it, and that's why we need to
Yeah.
look into it and decide where we go, because we just need. My line on it is, provided, this is only me, provided people can account for the money they're spending and they've got properly done accounts. That doesn't mean great sort of ledgers and everything, because it's just a basic in-out sort of thing that you're doing. It's not complicated. Provided people can show that their accounts balance, basically, provided they're informing people in their area about meetings and other stuff, and notice boards for me are good enough. I think you've got a duty to inform people, but I think
Yeah.
people have got a duty to be informed as well. So if you've let people know about
Well, we
something
always
that's
do.
happening,
We have notice
and-
boards. We've also got
Well,
the newsletter.
if they don't turn out to meetings and you've had the opportunity to let them know, then you can do no more, really.
Oh, right.
So that's why I was saying earlier, I think we quite a fairly light touch.
But that's not a problem here, is it?
No.
No, I'm not saying it's
At
not.
the
I'm just
last
saying
meeting,
that's what we want. We need to be able to let people
at the
get
last
on with
meeting,
it.
they wanted a lock-in because they wanted more information about what we were doing. We were going on, and everybody was saying, can this be done, that be, because we had a meeting regarding the under-occupancy tax.
Bedroom
And,
type.
yeah, and, I was being diplomatic. And obviously the new credit union that's coming on board.
Yeah.
Besides other issues, but they were the main ones, you know,
Well,
that people wanted to know
That's
about.
why we need to sort it out, because there's going to be some big issues
Yeah.
that are going to affect people. These bedroom tax, these caps on benefit, 350 for single, 500 if you're a family. And that's only beginning. There's going to be more stuff. So we want active tenants associations to be able to let people know what's coming, really. And as I said, I know I'm repeating myself, but I just think we need a fairly light touch to let people get on with it. There's no definite model about tenants association. What works on Parsons Cross, my area, might not work exactly right here, and we need to trust the people that are on the estates. However, we do need to make sure we've got some certain basic rules on conduct for our officers as well, on conduct and finance. And the finance bit, ain't because they don't trust you, it's because when you're dealing with other people's money, there's all sorts of allegations, and you need to be able to say, there you are.
There's never been any query about that here, is there?
We've all
No, I don't
got all
think
our,
it's probably
we've
happened.
Can
got
I
all
say
our
something
accounts.
nice?
No,
I know it goes against the grain, doesn't
No,
it? It sticks in my craw, but I've got to say
it took me
something.
years to form this opinion, Martin. You don't want to spoil it.
Right, I've got to say this about this Tara, in that it has an excellent relationship with the estate walkabout team. And if you were to ask Damon himself, okay, not anybody else, but go and ask Damon himself what he thinks has happened in the last 18 months on Batemore. And I think he will quite gladly agree with you that it's not the best state in the world, but as a result of that relationship, it has been transformed. There are still some problems, don't get me wrong, but for example, you're finding all the drains and gullies are now cleared. You're finding that you're getting people, because they see areas are being cleared up more often, then they're not littering the area as much. In other words, they're starting to take a pride. Yes, there's still a problem, especially during term time, but generally speaking, because people are making the effort to bring the area up, they're taking a bit of a pride.
Dividends.
Yes, and the more recent one, of course, is the knee fences around the green areas.
Yeah.
Whereas before they used to think nothing of driving across the greens. Now that we've got these coming in, it's becoming a place where people like to be instead of where they have to be.
But I need to go now. But I will come back, and I will, when I come back, will have read all the stuff, and I'll talk to the people, I've said, and then we need to decide how we're going to put this right, because it needs to be put right, because if we don't, you'll walk away, and then the estate will lose.
Yeah.
I agree with Martin that people on the estate, working on the estate, little victories, but they make big differences, really.
Can I just leave you with one thought? We've got an open meeting on Wednesday the 24th of April at over there at Unit 3, Medhead Christian Fellowship. We hire the hall. And what we're doing there is we've got Amy coming. They've actually agreed to come on that night. And we had a meeting with Maxine.
Savianikos.
The Greek name that I can't remember.
Yeah. Regarding the bedroom tax and
Yeah.
going round in that, because obviously we've got some people on here with issues over vertical lifts and bedrooms and other things, on the disability side. So we've had a word with her, give us some names and that. And if she's free, she's actually thinking about coming to the meeting again.
It's all good stuff.
Yeah, so obviously, from our last meeting where we've got speakers about the bedroom tax, and it's an invite from St Luke's to go to a meeting. Besides that, and so it's a follow-on from the information that they actually got to what's actually in place in April. That's why we've decided to have the meeting towards the end of April, so that people will be affected by the 1st of April by the bedroom tax, and it's a case of how they're being affected, what probably they can do to help rectify the situation or help the situation. Maureen's there. And also to talk about the new universal credits that's coming in possibly in October, and how people are going to cope.
It's going to be difficult. The bedroom tax, we think that now it varies, but we think there's at least 5,000 tenancies. At one stage we thought it was between 6 and 7, but I think now we think it's about 5,000. Even if somebody wants, I wish I hadn't took that lid off, Martin. Even if people want to trade down, well, not want to, but prepared to trade down, the penalty comes straight in. You could say, well, you offer me a 2-bed and I'll move out of this 4-bed, or offer me a 1-bed, I'll move out of this 3-bed. But if we haven't got it, the property, and we haven't, you can't do it, but you're still going to lose 14% or 25% of your benefit. I don't like it anyway, but I think it would have made more sense if they'd have said the penalty kicks in if you refuse a reasonable offer. And what it doesn't take into account, you know, a lot of people have lived in properties for years and they've spent a fortune getting a house just like they want it, and they're going to have to move out probably and have to start all over again, and maybe now they haven't got the money to get it right, because most people while they're working, I know it doesn't affect pensioners, but some people at about 50 or so, well, it's state pensioners, you know, you could have spent your money when you've got a bit spare, and now you're coming up, you're saving for your old age, you can't really afford to do it all again, and it's just so unfair. I just
Plus there's the
It is
energy.
unfair,
In
because
your
where
mid
would
to
you
late
put money
50s,
in?
you haven't got the energy you had.
Oh, I haven't, I certainly haven't, no. And go on, I know what you're all thinking, no, I'm not in my mid-50s, I'm a lot older. I'll need to get off because I've got another meeting, but I promise you, if you need to contact me, have you got Marilyn's number that looks after me?
Yeah, I've got the email.
Right.
Oh,
fair.
I think I did, because obviously I contacted you about at the meeting. But of course, I mean, Dean Butterworth, we didn't even know who Dean Butterworth were. He just sent an email, no title or anything. We hadn't got a clue who he was. And he said about that you'd offered a meeting before, and I thought, news to us. We had asked Harry Harpham to a meeting, and we'd asked him a few times, you know, if he'd come to a meeting, if he'd arranged it in his diary, but never got back to us.
Well, it popped up in my diary when I loaded up, and it's obviously because Harry's asked me to look at the recognition policy, the other stuff, because he, as well as being cabinet member, he's also deputy leader, so he's got quite a full diary. I actually like this bit of it, you know, talking to tenants associations. My background really is tenants associations, so I quite like it. So I don't mind, but
It would have been nice if he'd have told us.
well, might have been nice if he told me as well. But
Because, I mean, I often email him over other stuff. I mean, at the moment, I've emailed him over some antisocial behaviour and fires, you know, that's been happening. I mean, well, I'll give you a little bit of background. There's been a tenant on this estate that's been causing lots of antisocial behaviour, and the people that she's invited to be in the property with her through drinking and other sorts of nasty things that they've been doing. They actually told one of the disabled people that they'd shoot them if they decided to report anything, and the other one they said they'd stab. There's been 5 fires in the property, 2 where I've witnessed 2 of them without the fire brigade being called, but they was actually told, oh, we've only got on record 2 fires, which is not right. They've got all the fires because the antisocial behaviour team was informed as these fires happened. And I've actually said to Harry, how long have these people got to endure antisocial behaviour and bullying from these tenants, plus the threat to their lives due to they've already had 5 fires.
If they're setting fires and he's threatening to kill people or stab them, that's a criminal matter
Oh, it
for
is.
the police to deal with, really.
Well, the police have actually been involved in it, but it's not only the police, it's the house, it's the council and Sheffield does, because obviously if they're managing a property that's had 5 fires, surely I'd be saying, how much is this costing us?
It's not that. If somebody's committing a criminal offence,
Yeah.
we can't throw them out for committing an alleged criminal offence. If they're found guilty, then we can get them out quickly. But it's for the police to prosecute, not for Sheffield Council.
What's the policy then on people, on the amount of fires people can have while living in the property?
Because they don't have many.
That you will actually repair?
The answer is
I
none.
don't know.
The answer is none. But if somebody says, I didn't set that fire, and we say everybody knows it, and it's one thing knowing something, it's another thing proving them.
Yeah.
And if we went to court, and we need a sheriff's warrant now to get people out, we went to court and said, they started a fire in their property. As you know, well, everybody on the estate says so. You just throw that.
Yeah.
You need the police to prosecute
Yeah.
them. If they found guilty, even, you don't even need to set a fire, something a lot less than if they've committed. The policy is, if someone's committed a criminal offence or using the property for criminal activities, there's no defence, we can get people out.
Yeah. Well, I think the one about when she threatened to stab that person, I think they actually reported it. The one that was witnessed where they said that they'd shoot them if they... I don't think she's actually done anything because she's frightened.
Well,
really frightened.
it-
In fact, they're all really frightened. They've been
That's the issue.
terrorised.
That's the issue.
Yeah,
Getting
they've been
people to
terrorised
report
by those
because they're
people.
frightened, they're not
Thank you.
going to get the
Yeah.
protection.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Stan.
And the other side of it is, it's not all down to the police, despite what I've said,
Yeah.
because they've got to prove beyond reasonable doubt. We've only got to prove some stuff, not criminal stuff, on balance of probability. So it's both of us working together.
I always thought they provided independent witnesses after so long.
They're supposed to do, but
Yeah.
they'll pay what it is if it's a private
Well,
detective.
this has been going on for over 2 years now. They go and have a word with them, it goes quiet for a bit. They decide to dismiss the case, even though they're not happy about it. So, well, if it's quiet, we'll close the case,
You can see
instead
that.
of keeping it open as an ongoing thing. So what they're doing is, they go in having a word, she starts behaving herself, say for a month, they close the case off, and then in a few days' time, they're opening another case, because it's
I'm sorry, I've got to go. I've got to be
Okay.
over at Parsons Cross.
Okay, then, thank you for
So if I
coming
get a
in.
speeding ticket, I'll send it up to you to pay.
But we can't have your points on our licence.
Oh no. Yeah. Here's 3 points. I'd just like to get over. Yeah. I'll do what I've said I'll do, and then I'll get in touch. I've got Barbara's number,
Yeah.
and we'll meet again, and then perhaps we can
Okay.
decide where we. Thanks, Martin.
You're welcome, Tony.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Bye bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Yeah, cheers.